2025 was... really good, actually. This year didn't look good at all, and as the year kept going, I really started losing hope in this year being anything special. By October, I had only seen one truly amazing film, and I was really preparing to make this a more negative video. However, out of nowhere, pretty much all of my favorite films this year randomly dropped in November and December, and just completely changed my opinion on this year, and the runtime of this video. While there weren't any films this year that I thought were masterpieces or anything, there was an increase of amazing movies compared to last year. So yeah, 2025 was a really good year for film. Alright, this video is late enough, let's get into it. But first, honorable mentions? Despite everything I said about 2025 being really good, this might have still been a better year for albums and video games. I only played 2 video games to come out this year, being Silksong and Deltarune, but that's more than enough to call this a great year. Silksong is great, but Deltarune is a masterpiece if you weren't aware based on what I've been uploading. It's the only piece of media this year I would give an easy 10 out of 10 to. Albums this year were also great. I think maybe they're a little closer to movies this year than I initially thought, but the album movie for Vanisher Horizon Scraper still clears the #1 film this year. I'm actually going to do another video on albums in 2025 later, so I won't really speak on it fully here. The main point you need to know is that Deltarune and Vanisher are definitely better than the #1 spot on this video. But I mean, 2025 for film honestly had more amazing films than overall amazing games or albums. That's probably just me though. Oh yeah, and TV. Nothing all that crazy to be honest. Some standouts were Invincible Season 3, Smiling Friends Season 3, Taco P's Original Sin, and The Bear Season 4. Invincible Season 3 is pretty amazing, but the rest of these are just great, which isn't a lot. But at the same time, I didn't watch a lot of TV this year. Okay, that's pretty much all the honorable mentions. Let's get into the speed round. A fast-paced ranking of every movie this year before we can get into the good 8 out of 10 stuff. Very ironic that the first film I saw this year ended up being the worst. God, this movie is still awful. I saw it pretty much a year ago, and I still think about how much it fails at. Mel Gibson might be washed. Definitely the worst movie of the year, but it's too funny not to put any lower. Still might be the funniest film of 2025, not gonna lie. Great theater experience, awful movie. Okay, I'm starting to realize how many well-liked movies are this low. I guess this is the first one? Yeah, I really hated most of what this movie tries to do. Bad acting, weird story, good puppets. I am him. I am football. Yeah, no, genuinely couldn't pay attention to a second of this. Every music number feels the same. Every plot point feels the same. Way too repetitive. Third time was not the charm. Why is this movie's frame rate so high? It looks like a video game cutscene. And why is it so inconsistent with that frame rate? Didn't like this very much. I like the end credit music. This should probably be lower because I genuinely can't remember anything about it. Pretty good movie with a genuinely abhorrent score. Worst music of the year easily. Not for me. Didn't really care about these characters or the plot of the movie. It does look pretty nice though. I get why people like it. It's so bad that it can sometimes be kinda good. Still upset about this one. Jessie Buckley genuinely gives my favorite lead actress performance this entire year, and Pedro Pascal is equally great, but this entire movie is so aimless and confused in what it's trying to be about. Are we focusing on Shakespeare's wife, or are we focusing on Shakespeare himself? Or are we focusing on Hamlet as a play? Pick a side. I don't think I like Chloe Zhao very much. It's boring. This film has amazing production design. I think I was reading Heartstopper when I saw this, so I was mostly just thinking about how good Heartstopper was. Maybe I'll give this a rewatch. Like the first one, but far too serious and a far worse Michelle Yeoh performance. The thing stopping this from being an 8 or a 6 was if Dakota Johnson was actually giving a good performance. This rewatch I decided that she isn't. I couldn't really get into this one, but it has a cool ending. Mostly got on my nerves because of how messy this film feels despite being so slow and having so much time on its hands. The jazz is very good. I mean, yeah, it's still fun. Dan Season 2 was not very good. These episodes are also not that good. Kinda forgot everything about this already, besides the action set pieces that are very stressful and very fun. Okay, after being freed from the Karate Kid franchise and actually comparing this to real movies, it's actually not very good. Great Karate Kid film still, like the Joey Valence Embrace song. Would have liked this way more if it actually felt like an Edgar Wright movie. I really love the first 45 minutes, but then it just kind of falls off and loses me. Maybe the new one this year will be good. I don't know anything about these characters, but the music here is good, and the animation is very vibrant. Also, I'm really good at the rhythm game. Don't remember much of it besides it looking really nice and having a little cute story that didn't have to be much more. I actually saw the director talk about his filmography, which was incredibly inspiring. I think the movie itself is pretty good. Not sure if I should count this or not, seeing as I missed the first 45 minutes, but I got the gist of it. I thought this movie was quite good from what I saw. I think this was a bit of a return to form for the MCU. This is pretty good despite how bad its follow-up is going to be in Doomsday. Fun time, but with Keanu Reeves. Saw this at a mystery screening. I thought it was pretty interesting. You gotta be really dumb to befriend a Nazi. Best MCU film this year. It's got a bit of the Guardians of the Galaxy charm to it. Flawed and not too interesting, but a potential step in the right direction. Maybe the most obscure film on this list. Fun documentary with some really interesting Wes Anderson-like cinematography. Yeah, it's still just good. Some great elements, some weak elements. It's a good film that unfortunately has to compete with everything else Bong Joon-ho has made. Originally gave this an 8, but I think I just had Deltron brain rot because I saw the little alien guy as Lancer. It's still cute. Great animation, great moments, but still a film that won't take itself too seriously at the end of the day. This was gonna make the list, but I watched the first half again before making this video and changed my mind. I love Wes's style, and there are still some great moments sprinkled throughout this, but generally one of his most forgettable films. Fantastic ending. I think it very well could make the 8 out of 10 section on a rewatch. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time, and I really don't want to write another segment for this video, so I didn't do it. Okay, if you've noticed, I actually skipped a few movies, and that's because I once again have features for this video. Once we get into the 8 out of 10 movies, I will have more, but this section is dedicated to those who wanted to talk about a film that I didn't like nearly as much. Let's get into it. FNAF 2 is certainly a movie. Genuinely terrible film, but it's still got its so bad it's good charm to it, just not as strongly as the first. Here's a feature from DannyDraws.
FNAF 2 was, it was certainly one of the movies that came out this year. As a fan of the franchise, I had a fantastic time watching this movie and poking my friend next to me every time there was a reference to the games or books. Even so, it was a bad movie. The plot was non-existent, the dialogue horribly predictable, and the acting left a lot to be desired. Obviously excluding Elizabeth Lail, Freddie Carter, Matthew Lillard, and my goat Josh Hutcherson. However, there were a lot of great aspects too. The engineering and design of the animatronics definitely carried this movie. Seeing the toy and withered animatronics expertly brought to life was amazing. With the push to use CGI for everything in movies, the care and consideration put into each animatronic is a breath of fresh air. I wish the withered ones got more screen time, especially Mangled, with how horrifying they got her to look. A moment of silence for her getting thrown through a window into Freddy. Okay, moving on. The movie also had a lot of references for fans who have played the games. Balloon Boy getting his head torn off was definitely fan service. In the second game, he shows up and steals your lights, making him really annoying since you can no longer defend against Foxy. His death was for the players tormented by the little guy. And the little plushy Freddy saying "R, R, 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 R" was great. The theater I was in cheered. Now to talk a bit about the plot. Vanessa was definitely the most interesting character of the film. We get to see how she is tormented by her dad, Bringtrap, and does not want to continue his legacy, unlike her brother, Michael. But in the end, other than her nightmares, it doesn't really affect her character. I think she could have made a great twist villain. Similar to her role in Security Breach. Taken over by her father, she could have betrayed the main crew. Marionetta being the villain instead was rather odd. The justification of her being just after the parents made some sense, but it was still a weird pick. Other than puppeteering Toy Chica and harassing Vanessa, she lacks a role in the movie, even as the antagonist. She also looked rather goofy when possessing people. While this movie is full of plot holes, one of them is gnawing at me. Where the hell have the furry Game 1 animatronics been this whole time? They're shown as having left the pizza place, but we don't know where they are until they show up at the end. I have no idea how large stomping animatronics hid for days until coming in to save Abby and falling on the floor. I mean, in one book they bury themselves. They've been living underground for a week? While this movie sucked, I enjoyed watching it and seeing the animatronics. I do hope they give them to another studio for any future FNAF movies. Those suits deserve to be shown in a good movie, not whatever this one was. For a quick ending note, my main disappointment has got to be CG5 not voicing that damn cupcake. I saw posters and him in interviews saying he was the voice of the toy cupcake. The stupid thing didn't even really make any sounds. I could say that I voiced it, since nobody actually did. Really funny bit, though it's always possible his scene got cut.
I admire the technology here, but a little too long for my liking. Here's Calendar.
F1 the movie. I actually really liked it. I'm gonna be so for real. I walked into the theater, I'm a Formula 1 fan, right? And so I walked in, thought this was gonna be a really mediocre movie, but I had a really fun time watching it. I think one thing that could be improved upon, which most Formula One fans can agree, is that there should have been less Apex racing, which might sound crazy because it's like the main thing, but we all kind of wanted more drivers, more teams, more like stuff like that, and there really wasn't as much as we'd all hoped. This movie was clearly made by like and for fans, but they're definitely like Gen X fans. Throwing in Gunther and Roscoe and a couple things like that is like very much older fan, which makes sense, right? But I guess the entire point of the movie is that you got this like older driver and a younger driver who's like the rookie, right? But they only appealed to the Brad Pitt fan type, like side, not the other guy whose name I can't remember. I think throwing in like just an incident or even like a Fernando Alonso like kind of meme would have really brought together the whole movie, like, and made it very much more for the fans. It was a fun time. Is it a great movie? No. But is it one that I'm gonna watch over and over again? Yeah, probably. Still with like 7 out of 10, I guess, in terms of best movies.
I think this film looks really good sometimes and has some good music, but I didn't really care about the characters, and the world itself didn't feel all that interesting to me. Here's a feature from Mallow.
Hey guys, it's me. The movie I want to talk about is Happy End by Neo Sora. Happy End is a high school coming-of-age film that follows 5 friends in a music appreciation club navigating their lives under an authoritarian surveillance state. This movie is so good and might just be the most underrated movie of like all time ever. I first watched Happy End knowing next to nothing. All I had seen was its poster, and I was blown away by how insanely good it turned out to be, immediately becoming my favorite film of the year and one of my favorite theater experiences of all time. The cinematography of Happy End is incredible. It just looks so good. I love the style of it so much and how many beautiful wides it utilizes. It really reminded me of Parasite and Better Call Saul in its visual style, which is saying something because both of those are top tier. There's so much intention and meaning put into the visuals of Happy End, and it's an absolute treat to look at. I genuinely don't think there's a single bad shot in the whole film. Happy End's story primarily focuses on best friends Ko and Yuta, but everyone else in the group has stuff going on for them too. The actors do a great job at making their characters feel real, and all of their dynamics are so full of chemistry and just feel really authentic. I don't want to spoil too much when discussing this film because it's definitely worth watching in our own, so I'll be avoiding as many specifics as possible in my review. But I'll just say that everyone's stories are so well written, they feel so sincere and work together perfectly to create a larger perspective of the world that they live in, and it just is so good. Another standout for me was the editing. The film is very understated and leaves a lot of trust in you as the viewer to pick up on what is going on, and it manages to do so in a completely unpretentious and non-confusing way. The film has large amounts of empty space and quiet moments filled with this tension that lingers perfectly, and these scenes always manage to cut away at just the right moment. For most of the movie, this approach was really refreshing to me, except for one. I won't say too much, but there is a scene in this movie that has made me cry every single time I watch it. In the scene, you want so desperately for the film not to cut away, but you can just feel it coming any second, and it's just so masterfully done. I won't say any more than that, but it's probably my favorite single scene in any film in general. The score in Happy End is also a standout for me. A majority of the film is without music, but when it is playing, it's incredible. Every track is utilized so well and leaves you wanting more. I have basically the entire soundtrack added on Spotify. Alright, that's enough glaze. It's time to get into the cons. There's a minor comic relief character in the film who is so cartoonish compared to every other character, it feels kind of jarring. It's not even much of an issue, but every other minor or major character feels so real that by comparison he seems a lot worse. I do find his moments funny, and he is a minor character, so it's not that big of a deal. Another small con I had was that one of the characters does an off-screen prank, and the end result looks as though it would have required superhuman strength to pull off, and it's never explained how this was done. In my opinion, this is only a minor issue though, because it's clearly meant to be absurd, and also I'm sure there is a way that it could have been physically done, but I'm just not smart enough to think of how. Okay, that is all. Thank you for listening. Please watch this movie. Bye bye.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Honey Don't is still good. I can see why people dislike it, but I find Honey to be a fun character to follow, and I enjoy all her side characters. I like it when nothing gets resolved at the end. I think that's fun. Here's a feature from JL.
Are you recording right now?
Yeah, okay. What do you think about Honey Don't, Mr. JL?
I think Honey Don't is unironically a good movie, and people who hate on it are lame. It is Driveway Dolls if it was good. And I guess the opinion's kind of been the opposite of that when I think otherwise. It is a better movie than Hamnet, Sinners, One Battle After Another, Superman, Thunderbolts, K-pop Demon Hunters, Begonia, Train Dreams, Ninja 2, F1, Mickey 17, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, Weapons, Bring Her Back, Black Phone 2, Wicked for Good, Sorry Baby, Naked Gun, Caught Stealing, The Life of Chuck, Running Man, Surat Warfare, 28 Years Later, Frankenstein, The Long Walk, and every single JPEG Mafia album.
Okay, thank you. Good job. Yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters is a good movie. It's kind of become the movie to like this year, which is a little annoying, but at least it's a good film. Fantastic animation too. Here's a feature from Nova.
Hey, you sure you want me to do this? I mean, what makes me so qualified to talk about K-pop Demon Hunters? I'm not that obsessed with the movie. Okay, maybe I'm a little too qualified for this job. Anyways, there is so much to love here with this film, but I'll start off by talking about the visuals because, man, even after all these years, Sony just keeps continuing to impress me. Keep in mind, this was a studio who for the longest time struggled to find its identity, and now here we are, delivering such visual masterpieces time and time again. And honestly, just kind of has me excited for what their future projects hold. And then there's the characters themselves, which honestly is my favorite aspect of the entire movie. Now, I've seen this film about 8 times now, and with each viewing, I found myself connecting more and more with Rumi, Mira, and Zoe. Their inner struggles were something I felt a ton growing up, and I still feel every day. In all honesty, it's been so long since I've seen a film where I could connect so much with a majority of the main characters. It just felt so refreshing to me. Speaking of refreshing, the same could be said for the story itself too. Even if it's not the most perfect thing out there, I mean, I still kind of think the third act breakup could have been handled better, but hey, it could have been handled much worse, so I won't complain too much. And now, it's about time I talk about probably the most talked about aspect of this movie, and that is the soundtrack. Before I do so, let me just make one thing clear. Prior to watching this movie, I had never listened to a single K-pop song before. Yeah, not a single one. You gotta understand where I came from. I grew up listening to a ton of classic rock songs and whatnot, but I was willing to give this movie a chance to expand my music taste a bit. And I'm glad to report that the soundtrack is just so good. You know what? No. It's not even good. It's just great. It's great. So great, in fact, that I've actually thought about listening to more K-pop artists as a result. I don't care. Every song here is just a banger. Even the weakest song, That Would Be You, is still really solid. But I'll give some extra special credit to how it's done, Takedown, and my personal favorite, What It Sounds Like, which I nearly cried listening to it one time. Laugh all you want, but when a film like this means so much to me, I can't help but get emotional over it. There's so much more I'd love to talk about with this film, but if I did that, this segment would probably be an hour long, so I'll stop it here for now. Thanks for having me on, Con. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go wait for the sequel to release.
This was gonna make the list originally, but I changed my mind right before making this video. The last 30 or 40 minutes of this still look great, but I think the opening hour grew off me even more. I just find this to be a very confused film in what it actually wants to be. Here's a feature from Critical Dell.
Hey yo, it's me, Dell. And I thought Niza 2 was ridiculously good. I genuinely was blown away how much this movie locked the fuck in. While having an admittedly slow start, once the second half kicks in, it becomes a thrilling, stunning, and emotional experience. Pretty much every character gets time to shine, and the jokes land much better than the first, in my opinion. And, jeez, the animation was just stunning. It's probably the most big animated film I've ever seen. Like, literally, it is just jaw-dropping how much this film looks so spectacular. I am so glad I saw this in the movie theater, even though there was like 5 other people in the theater. Yeah, A24 kind of fucked up with the English dub. The villain, although I did call it beforehand, was really very well executed. And not to give away spoilers, the emotional scene with Niza and his mother was just so beautiful. It genuinely nearly brought a tear to my eye. That sequence was just incredible, and the animation just made it all the more sad. So yeah, overall, Niza 2 was extremely good. Easily the best movie I've seen this year. I genuinely can't wait for Niza 3. Well, technically I can't wait for the dub of Niza 3. I'm not really a sub guy, sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna give it back to Con. Take it away, dude.
Okay, that's all the features. Let's move.
Hey guys, it's DogonaDog, and my favorite movie of 2025 is Marmaduke. Yes, the one with the gassy dog. And this is because it's just a masterpiece, you know? It's not even made in 2025, but you don't even notice that it's not even made in this year, you know? It's that good. But anyways, my favorite scene in this movie is probably the farting one, like after he eats all that food. And this is because I have a friend, you know, like his dad is very nice. You know, I love that guy, but he's super gassy, you know, he stinks of which reminds me of Marmaduke. Okay, now aside of my personal reason, the animation throughout is just, it's timeless. It's great. And his character is just so funny. His silly little deeds and like he goofs around a lot, which adds to his great character, and he's so lovable. And not to mention cute, you know, dogs are cute. Marmaduke is cute, especially like when he's farting. Now, besides that, Marmaduke's character is sometimes gross. And personally, I don't like gross stuff. And I know someone in real life that's real gross, and their name is MCAT.
I hope you're on this video, and I hope you're watching this, and I hope you're really scared right now, and shaking in your boots right now. You know, I just want to like leave a personal message for you. It's like, screw you, dude.
Alright, well that was it. Alright, as you can tell by my name, I clearly love Marmaduke as a DogonaDog, and Marmaduke is a dog. Yeah, you get it. So, watch Marmaduke, and I hope you'll enjoy it. No, you will enjoy it.
Huh? Marmaduke? I didn't like that movie very much. Why were we talking about it? I don't think that came out this year. Okay, anyways, let's move into the 8 out of 10 films. To put it simply, A Nice Indian Boy is just such a vibe. A Nice Indian Boy is about this silly little gay Indian guy named Naveen and him falling in love with this other silly little gay white guy named Jay. Conflict emerges when Naveen's parents get upset at them dating, not because they're gay, but because Naveen is dating a white man. I think a lot of what makes A Nice Indian Boy work is just how likable Naveen is. The writing for his character feels so realistic and lived in. I really love the detail that most conflicts in this film don't come from the outside world, but from Naveen himself. Plus, Karen Soyle is just a really strong, charismatic lead. Besides Naveen, Jay is also a pretty good character, and the two of them have a pretty strong bond that frankly feels more awkward before becoming an actual relationship, but I actually kinda like that. I do enjoy seeing these two characters consistently fumble before actually settling down. Once we get past that awkward phase, I think this movie really hits its peak once we introduce Naveen's family into the story. A Nice Indian Boy really nails uncomfortable moments, and I think the general idea of Naveen's family being mad that Naveen is dating a white guy really adds to this film's comedy. Speaking of comedy, it's still pretty shocking to me that this movie is genuinely really funny. You'd think a rom-com with an idea like this would solely focus on awkward moments for comedy, and they are still there and they're still good, but there are also so many genuinely great, out-of-left-field jokes throughout this film. I don't know if many people find them funny, but they're literally designed for me. The twink death joke is actually the best scene in the whole film. Besides the main relationship focused on throughout A Nice Indian Boy, we have a shocking amount of strong side characters. Naveen's entire family feels really unique. Both his parents and sister have their own plots diving into more issues in American Indian culture like unwanted marriages or forced arrangements. I really appreciate this movie for tackling several themes that relate back to the main theme of love. Like a lot of this movie focuses on the real love between Naveen and Jay, but we also have multiple plots about the fake love between Naveen's sister and her fiance, or Naveen's parents and their struggling marriage. Besides those themes and plots, these characters are just really fun to vibe with. That scene of Jay and Naveen's dad with the dates is still one of my favorite scenes in the movie just because of how strong their dynamic was. If I had to pick the main flaw I have with A Nice Indian Boy, and the main reason why it's not higher, is that it's just really simple, and that brings down the movie for me. There are some interesting points made, but for the most part, this movie really boils down to a simple rom-com, and those usually aren't my thing. However, I do have the top review for this movie on Letterboxd, so yeah, it makes it one of the best films of the year. Wow, okay, just completely flipping the tone here. Louis Theron, The Settlers is a documentary on Israel's invasion of Palestine, and yeah, it's as heavy as it sounds. I think the best way to describe the feeling this documentary gives off is Louis's absolutely disgusted face whenever he's interviewing the several Zionists in this. Filmmaking-wise, this documentary isn't anything special, and it's not trying to be, but I find the way it paces itself to be extremely effective. We spend the first half getting to see Louis interview several Zionists before we spend the second half with Louis spending time in actual Palestine communities. The confrontation with Louis and the Israel soldier is so effective at showing the extreme hostility poorly hidden within these awful, evil people. The choice of this pace is so effective because we get to spend time hearing these Zionists blabber before getting to see the actual truth of the situation. There isn't a ton to talk about in this documentary, but it's a topic that's incredibly important to spread awareness on, and I feel like I have to dedicate a segment to it even if I don't have that much to say about it. Free Palestine.
The end of the movie, but the problem is this ain't Jeff Kinney's child.
The Long Walk is definitely the best Stephen King adaptation this year, since for some reason there are a ton of those in 2025. The Long Walk follows a dystopian world where in order to produce harder workers, the government hosts an event where 50 young men must walk or die. We follow a couple of those boys seeing who can last the longest and win. My favorite element of The Long Walk is its cast and writing. Most of this film just consists of our cast talking and walking, and it's really investing. It feels like I'm listening to a really interesting podcast. Most of our actors here are great, and their bonds feel very natural and real. For a film like this, you need really strong characters and strong relationships, and I think our actors do a great job selling that. The real standouts from the cast are Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson. Besides the main two, we have a lot of strong supporting characters in The Long Walk that are also very good. The Four Musketeers are great, especially Olsen and his gum. There are elements of his character that appear later in the film that feel underdeveloped, but everything else about him is really good. I do think the rest of our cast is very, very underdeveloped, but they're still fun. While Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson give the best performances in this film, Gary Barkovich, played by Charlie Palmer, is one of my favorite characters in the movie. I'd like to think he becomes a villain because no one laughs at his jokes at the start. He's so radiant and desperate. I really love everything about him. He literally almost dies in the first 5 minutes because he wanted to tie his shoes. That's how you know he's the best. The Long Walk, like the actual game itself, is also pretty cool. They break up a lot of this movie by seeing residents of different towns watching them as they walk. It's just so ominous and really sells the dystopian future of this movie. I also really like how unsatisfying and pointless the game itself feels. When they hit 100 miles, they literally get nothing. Oh, and also another way they break up this film is having the Major show up throughout. Yeah, I don't really like this guy. He honestly doesn't feel all that unlikable, and Mark Hamill is kinda bad. Like, he hams up his performance in a really bad way. You're meant to hate this guy, but he feels more weird than anything, and I just really don't like him. I don't know much about the Long Walk book, but I do know the ending for this movie is solely original, and from what I know about the book, I think that choice really elevated this film. The scene is genuinely kind of unexpected and shot in a way that a book wouldn't be able to capture. The Long Walk is great. It definitely has issues like all the pooping that I didn't even mention, like why did it have that strong of a focus? Getting sidetracked here. Yeah, The Long Walk is great.
Every time I miss you, I get cut off.
I feel like the best way to explain how I feel about Novocaine are these two posters. This poster captures 90% of Novocaine, a genuinely great, really interesting action film. This poster looks like a cheap carbon copy of John Wick and Nobody, an instant skip and a throwaway. Now this part of the movie is only like 10% of the film, but for some reason we're marketing this 10% of Novocaine like the whole movie, and most people will probably see this poster and think it's the entire film. Now I'm not saying Novocaine is this deep, interesting drama because it really isn't, but I still think it's great. I think the main reason why Novocaine clicked with me so hard is a bunch of accidental specific situations that happened to me when watching this film. I originally saw Novocaine at a mystery screening a couple weeks before the movie was released nationwide, and when seeing it for the first time, I didn't even know what it was. When starting this film, I slowly started getting sucked into this romance of a man with congestional analgesia falling in love, and I was really enjoying it. There were some weak elements, but I was having fun, and then Santa Claus shows up and shoots up a bank. And now this romance film I'm watching turns into a full-on gory action film. I can't undersell how shocking that experience was for me, and I don't think many people have gotten that experience out of Novocaine because it markets itself so hard on its action and gore, which while a little upsetting is understandable because the action in Novocaine is fantastic. I really don't want to spoil the fights and ideas used in Novocaine, but this film really uses the main condition of congestional analgesia to its benefit and creates some really great fight scenes. Like the glass stuff? Come on, best scene in the movie. Another big aspect of Novocaine working for me is the lead performance from Jack Quaid. This is one of his first big roles so far, since he's mostly known as the son of the guy who cameos in Strays 2023. Jack Quaid is really good in Novocaine. Our main character is really fun. I like how he's switching between his genuine nice personality and his angry John Wick-esque violent persona. It gives us a great main lead, and Jack Quaid is able to sell that anger as well as Nathan's kind heart. I know I can't personally touch on this aspect of Novocaine, but I feel like Novocaine handles congestional analgesia really well. It's not something like Predator 2018 where the condition is handled as this godlike superpower. Novocaine really does touch on how much congestional analgesia sucks, detailing the terrifying fear of you dying at any second without you realizing because you won't feel it. You'd think they stopped doing this once getting into the action, but not feeling pain doesn't make Nathan unkillable. He is on the verge of death the entire movie because him not feeling pain leads to more suffering in his life. Oh yeah, and speaking of pain, the makeup and hairstyling in Novocaine is genuinely some of the best I've seen all year. That burned hand looks incredible, and the general use of gore always looks really good. Novocaine is also really funny. Making Nathan Cain a goody two-shoes was such a great choice, because he's constantly apologizing and can't lie even when his life is on the line. It's a very similar vibe to the Avatar gang, and it's the Avatar gang, so you know it's good. Okay, I've been praising Novocaine a lot, but this movie does have some pretty severe issues. Sherry is a decent character, but her actress is pretty bad. So many scenes feel phoned in, and it gets kind of annoying. The score and sound here is also pretty bad. The dramatic sting notes genuinely made me roll my eyes, and the music is extremely generic and can only be described as royalty-free music. I feel like I'm always in a continuous state of it's so over to we're so back throughout the whole movie. It's flawed, very flawed. I get why Novocaine doesn't have much of a positive reception amongst most general audiences, but this movie genuinely has some great elements and could have been even higher with a little more polish and effort and better marketing. I've already talked about the life of Chuck on my now dead series M&A, and on a rewatch I still pretty much have the same thoughts, but I think they're a lot clearer than they were on that episode. The life of Chuck follows the titular Chuck, a middle-aged man who dies in his late 30s. Throughout the film we follow his life in reverse order throughout 3 acts, starting from his death to his childhood. The biggest standout in the life of Chuck is Act 3, or Act 1. Even on a rewatch, it's still amazing. Act 3 isn't even on Chuck, it follows Marty, a school teacher who experiences the end of the world. The writing throughout this act is stellar. It's definitely because this movie is just taking writing directly from Stephen King's original book, but the acting here really adds to the dialogue, and I think that's enough to really justify this as a positive of the film. The way Marty just roams the world, aimlessly talking to people he meets, is really incredible. The film also has some really cool takes on the world ending, like Chuck just appearing everywhere while the world falls apart. It's so interesting and mysterious, which really hooks you for the rest of the film. As we build towards the ending of this act, we get the best scene in the entirety of the life of Chuck. Marty and his ex-girlfriend watch the stars before everything cuts to black. The acting here is stellar. The sound mixing with the flat line playing works really well, and it's just generally one of the best scenes from this year. I think a good way to describe this opening is that it's very similar to It's Such a Beautiful Day, following a random character as their world crumbles around them. It's nowhere near as good as It's Such a Beautiful Day, but it gives me the same vibes, and that's why I liked it so much. If anything, it's a little annoying how we never see the world end and are rather fed info through characters telling us how the world is ending, but I guess that's just a lack of budget. Act 2 and 1 are where this movie kind of falls off, so I have way less to say. Act 2 is actually really good, but it's by far the shortest act in the movie, so I'm gonna stop here. Act 1 for me is where my real issues with the life of Chuck become far more abundant. I really just can't get behind the structure of this movie. I feel like going backward in time when moving forward is really weird. In Act 1 we begin with Chuck as a child before ending on Chuck in his teenage years. I just feel for this movie to really work, it has to end on him being a child and start with him as an adult. It's a nitpick, but it honestly bothers me a lot. This is a movie about life, and I think you have to stick to that idea or ditch it altogether. Act 1 itself is just a lot more uninteresting. It's by far the longest act and really drags in some scenes. It still has a lot of positives though. The actor for Child Chuck is quite good, and that ending is still really strong and got me emotional on a rewatch. Before I wrap this up, I have a few more issues with the film. The life of Chuck has an omniscient narrator, and personally, this idea is filled with so much missed potential. I think he works in Act 2 and is pretty necessary, but his presence in Act 3 takes away a lot of the potential subtlety in this movie. In several scenes, you can tell what the characters are feeling before the narrator explains it to you. It's a classic case of show, don't tell. And the movie does show, but it also decides to tell, which is often unnecessary, especially in Act 3. Imagine how much harder the ending would have gone if the narrator didn't explain what was happening. They didn't have to even tweak anything, you just gotta remove him from a couple scenes. Another issue I have with the life of Chuck is the overarching message and meaning of Act 1. Spoilers if you care, timestamp here. So in Act 1, Chuck is dying and the people we are following, specifically Marty, are loose memories he has that are fading away. And I really love that. It really adds a deeper meaning to Act 1. But I kinda wish this idea was present throughout the whole movie. Imagine if the narrator was Chuck. He never actually appears in Act 3, so they were this close to making that change. In general, I think the idea of Act 1 being in Chuck's head could have played a bigger role in the overall film. Anyways, despite being pretty negative in this segment, the life of Chuck is still great. It has a fantastic first act, a great second act, and a flawed but decent third act. It has a lot of issues, as I've already mentioned, but I feel like the good outweighs the bad. Here's Surfstorm.
Bullets. All right, powering on the circuit in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about the life of Chuck. So I don't want to spoil this movie because it could ruin it, but I will say that this movie tells the story of the life of a man named Chuck. It's told backwards with 3 acts. It starts at Act 3 and ends at Act 1, and I just think it's a really beautiful movie. There's not that much that happens in this movie compared to some of the other movies this year, but I still think it's a really satisfying movie. It has a lot of great moments. A lot of people were also saying that this movie is life-affirming, which I also agree with. And I feel like everything in this movie kind of just works. The music and all the tiny details all work really well. So it's not anything crazy like Marty Supreme or Bring Her Back, but I still think it's a really great movie that everyone should watch. I don't really have anything else to say, so just go watch this movie and you'll hopefully enjoy it.
I'm supposed to be relaxing and enjoying my week off, and I can't because of this stupid Superman bullshit!
Superman is a really great start to James Gunn's DC universe. Superman on its own is honestly one of James Gunn's best films amongst his already pretty stacked catalog. You can really feel James Gunn's style throughout this entire film. Everything has such a strong sense of passion that I haven't really felt in a live-action superhero movie since, well, Guardians 3. I mean, do you really expect a Superman film to focus so strongly on Krypto, one of the most hated characters from the Superman franchise? No, but James Gunn makes it work because he's an expert at taking obscure or hated characters and using them in his work effectively. Superman also has a really strong political edge that I admire. I guess James Gunn said he wasn't leaning towards Palestine and Israel with this movie, but I mean, I feel like the movie leans into it pretty hard, even if he's just being general about war. I mean, you have to know what you're doing with a plot like this. Those are most of my general thoughts on Superman, but I really gotta talk about how great Lex Luthor is. Nicholas Hoult is so good in this movie. His performance feels so calculated, even when he's losing his mind and screaming. The 1A scene is still so great. Even with the great performance, I think Lex Luthor's writing is why I love his character so much. They set up deeper, more interesting motivations for him, like how he promotes war to sell his weaponry, only for the film to reveal that he did all this elaborate planning just so he could get permission to kill Superman. He's such a great villain. Oh my god, I love this guy. I still don't really like the Justice Gang, and the Daily Wire plot is still uninteresting, but everything about the main plot of this movie and how it's executed is great. Superman is definitely the best superhero film to come out this year. If you want to see my full thoughts on Superman, I already talked about it in my summer video, so yeah. Moving on.
Oh, you're Liddy. Oh my god. Okay, I'm so sorry. This is The Weekend.
I've been on my own for long enough.
Sorry Baby follows 4 years of our lead Agnes, a college professor that attempts to get through life after a really bad thing happens to her. I really love how Sorry Baby paces itself. As just stated, this movie paces itself by splitting into separate years to showcase what Agnes goes through in her early 20s. Through this angle, we can see how our lead continues to struggle and how her life begins to become a complete blur as we see less and less of each year. I also love the names of these years. The year with the good sandwich really shows where our main character is at mentally. Besides our lead, there are a shocking amount of characters in this seemingly solo film. We have a lot of side characters who make the world of this film feel lived in. Strangely though, my favorite characters of this movie are the random, one-off side characters that pop up throughout the film. I love the weird guy at the start that says "Ahoy neighbor." I love the blue jacket guy that gives Agnes a really good sandwich. And I love Natasha, just this incredibly unrealistic petty woman that just pops up throughout the film to insult Agnes. Her actress is hamming up the character character so much, I love it. These random goofy characters add so much to the generally miserable time this film can end up being. Sorry Baby is actually a directorial debut from Eva Victor, who did a really good job with this entire movie. I feel like the open cinematography often used here was made for me. The locations and scenic atmosphere add so much to weight in certain scenes. The obvious standout here, at least filmmaking wise, was the actual incident. It's incredibly unique and realistic, being completely silent and off screen. You're left on edge to see what the incident actually was, just for her to give a long detailed monologue of what actually happens in the following scene. Everything about this moment is so well directed and acted. Speaking of, the main actress for this movie is played by Sorry Baby's director, Eva Victor. Eva Victor does a great job with her central performance. They clearly know what they're going for, and she delivers super well. Sometimes this feels like a documentary because of how real it feels. There are sections here that feel like outright venting due to the writer and director also being the lead actress. At the same time though, Eva Victor playing the lead can lead to some really awkward, off-putting scenes. So many villains or talking points of this movie feel really over the top and goofy, which makes the sarcasm of this movie lose a lot of its punch. It feels like Eva Victor is setting up these basic ideas so she herself in the movie can deconstruct it, and it really loses me whenever this happens. It feels less like an actual point being made and more like Eva Victor congratulating herself for frankly making some pretty basic points. Still though, Sorry Baby is great, and I have a feature from MCAT.
Hey guys, this is my official review for Sorry Baby, which is an A24 film. I honestly have just so much to say about this movie, but I don't want to spoil it, so I'm gonna read a bit off my Letterboxd review. I guess to start, I just thought that it was just such a beautiful movie visually. Like, the cinematography and the shots were just it always felt really familiar. The locations aren't that varied, but it always came back to really similar shots, and it sort of, in a way, always felt like we were coming back to the same place, I guess, if that makes sense, because the whole movie takes place over the course of a few years, and it's all surrounding the bad thing that happens to Agnes, but each time it comes back, it's a little different, or something has changed, and the way that she responds to things around her is a bit different because it shows you that she as a person is changing. And I kind of thought that was such a really good theme for the whole thing. In the start, immediately after it happened, she never thinks she's going to change, or she never thinks things are going to change, and she even says that she can never see herself having kids or getting older, and she just believes that so deeply. But through the whole movie, you are actively seeing contradictions to that, because you are seeing her change, and you're seeing this one thing that was so heavy at one point in her life just get smaller and smaller, and it never goes away fully, but it does become less painful. And I thought that was just really nice. And also, Eva Victor is going places, man. She in this movie was absolutely amazing. You can always just see on her face exactly how she's feeling, and even if her character is a little bit awkward at times, you never feel like she, as an actor, is ever really disconnected from her emotions. The bathtub scene in particular, or immediately after when she's driving away from the bad thing, it just felt so real and raw, and you can feel the pain on her face really subtly. And I think this whole movie is just a really good, subtle portrayal of pain, and it happens in a really realistic way. It's not really loud. It's not like Jake Gyllenhaal smashing the mirror in that one movie. It's just really real and raw, and it really does make you empathize with the characters a lot more. Also, Naomi Aki, I think she was great too. I thought she was just a really good supporting actress in this. In all the ways that she's able to support Agnes. The cat, Olga, definitely also deserves an award for acting. Maybe even if we stack the cats, maybe a cat on a cat.
In a way, I don't know, it's just an idea I had, but I can think that over.
But yeah, overall, this movie was freaking fire, and I loved all of it. And I hope you guys enjoyed the best freaking feature of this whole episode. Make sure to subscribe to Connor and join the wolf pack. That's all I have to say. Bye.
Step further, and I have this big witch's cauldron. It was a big bowl, but I was pretending it was a witch's cauldron, and I was brewing things, and I was making witches laugh. I was like
While not really caring for his directorial debut Barbarian, Weapons is an incredible step up as Zach Cregger's second feature film. Weapons is a horror, drama, comedy mismatch about a bizarre incident where every child in one classroom at 2:17 a.m. runs out of their home into the dark, only to never come back. The first half of Weapons is genuinely incredible. This movie sets up one of the coolest mysteries of the year, and it perfectly hooks you into its story. Weapons takes the choice of splitting its runtime into multiple parts following separate characters. This choice is so smart because it creates a great pace for this movie to go at, and allows the mystery of Weapons to be cleverly drawn out. My favorite parts of Weapons are easily the first two, Justine and Archer. Justine is probably my favorite character in Weapons. Julian Garner gives a really solid performance, and watching her investigate the case of her missing classroom is really strong. Honestly, this whole plot could have been the whole movie. Most of my favorite scenes in Weapons come solely from her segment, whether that be the bizarre dream she has, or the scene where Justine sleeps in her car only for a darkened figure to come out from the house and stumble towards her in the dark with a pair of scissors. And then that terrifying figure stumbles around and cuts some of her hair. This scene captures Weapons so well. You have this genuinely terrifying scene, only for it to hit you right back with comedy. Archer's segment following Justine is great too. It does a really good job settling you into following new characters, and that ending scene of the principal chasing Justine down with blood covering his face is one of the most interesting mysteries in this movie. Weapons perfectly paces itself by giving you an initial awesome mystery before piling more onto it. I remember being so gripped at this point when first watching the movie, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. Then, the movie started slowing down. The Paul and James segments are both very good, but they're way shorter and don't set up or pay off new or old mysteries. However, I was still quite invested to see what would happen in this movie as it began ramping up again. However, again, Marcus and Alex, the last two segments in this movie, are also my two least favorite segments in Weapons, and I think it's because the actual explanation for the mysteries in this movie are pretty underwhelming. I'm not gonna spoil it because I know some people watching this will love it, but for me, the mystery and build-up are so cool, but the more simple direction this film goes in is whatever. Besides the mystery, Marcus's segment is alright, and Alex's segment is actually really good. Weapons' last 15 minutes are also really fun, and that ending chase is still great. Weapons' first half is still incredible and sets up everything so perfectly, but I find the actual explanation for everything to be kinda lame, and the film itself decreases in quality a lot past the first 2 to 4 parts. I still really like this one, but it's missing a satisfying payoff.
Really are cutting it together. What the hell? You piece of fucking shit! You ruined everything! You're worthless! Hey! No one's blaming any of this on you!
No Other Choice follows the front man from Squid Game getting fired from his job as a paper maker. In a desperate attempt to get his life back in shape, the front man tries to kill his competition to get his job back. I like Park Chan-wook a lot. I love Oldboy, and I think this is my second favorite film from him, even if I've only seen 3. No Other Choice looks phenomenal, and is the main reason why I enjoyed it so much. There is so much visual flair and attention to detail here. I think the plot of No Other Choice isn't the best thing ever, but so many simple moments become great just because of how unique this film looks. That shot of the match getting lit is one of the coolest shots this entire year. The main thing that hooked me on No Other Choice off its trailers is the scene of our lead trying to drop the pot on this guy. The way it's shot, having the water from the pot drip onto his head like sweat, or the way everything is visualized from a bird's eye view. It's fantastic. I love the long tracking scenes where we get to see our lead stumble around in the background. His first kill being so drawn out is so effective at being tense. Lee Young-hoon also gives a great performance as our lead, who actually isn't the frontman. His mannerism is so effective at making him super funny and also terrifying. His entire face during the ending for this film is haunting. I do find the story of No Other Choice a bit lacking. It is a little confusing why he's killing all these guys when they're also fired, and his entire family isn't fleshed out enough. I also found some metaphors to be a little on the nose, like the guy he meets going through the exact same situation as him. Plus, no other kills in this movie even get close to that pot scene. They're all kinda generic. Besides my issues with the kinda loose story, the cinematography and strong performances here carry No Other Choice into becoming a great film. And I have a feature from Eve.
First off, fuck Chloe Zhao for making another Oscar-winning movie that is still somehow worse than Eternals 2021. Anyways, No Other Choice is by far the best film of the year with a budget over $5 million thanks to Matt Johnson and Matt for getting away with some shit that should be extremely illegal. Park Chan-wook is still the GOAT, he's still dirty, he's not washed one bit. Putting out another near-flawless film, proving why he's probably the greatest working director right now. It's not as good as his last film, but like, there's not a single movie this decade that is. In some ways, this one kind of feels like Park Chan-wook on autopilot, but that standard is just so fucking high that the editing, the acting, screenplay is like dynamic and exhilarating on a level that most directors can't even achieve with their best film. Bong Joon-ho. This is, however, like one of his best looking films to date, building even further on his last few films with their focus on capturing the environment, going as far to like mimic paintings with certain shots. It looks so good. And like Park's control on tone is just effortless, managing to still turn like an extremely relevant issue into one of the funniest films of the year, while never never failing to like retain the capitalist critique at its core. It's just so fucking seamless. I don't know how he does it.
Why do people get so butthurt about trans people when they don't even do anything to you? I don't see that much hate about bears, and bears fuck people up all the time!
Bugonia is acclaimed director Yorgos Lanthimos' newest third annual feature film. It follows two cousins kidnapping and interrogating an extremely powerful CEO, believing that she is an alien. Bugonia honestly really lived up to my expectations. I had been really excited for Bugonia when seeing trailers, and while worried initially, I came out really liking it. To just start off, Bugonia has some really great performances. Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons are both great, and Aidan Deblis does a really good job, being much more impressive when you realize that this is actually his first ever big role. I don't think anyone here has a standout performance, but Bugonia's general great writing is what definitely elevates the movie and these performances. I really love how subtle Bugonia feels. Our leads are consistently putting up fronts to hide what they really are, and as the film goes on, our characters slowly get broken down further and further, revealing more of themselves. And you can feel that through the change in writing, along with all three lead performances. Bugonia does have a really simple premise, but it feels really unique based on Yorgos' exclusive, bizarre style of filmmaking. The cinematography is really good, the editing is really good, but the score is the real standout of Bugonia. That opening really sticks out to me, and the ending for Bugonia is easily the best scene of the film because of its choice in music. Besides some of the really powerful black and white flashbacks, I do have to admit that the movie did grow off me as it went, due to the amount of setup it has. I really do think that the first hour or so of Bugonia really just boils down to setup, and it's the main reason why it isn't higher in this video. I did find it to be pretty interesting, and it does have all the strong elements I already listed, but it does start to feel pretty repetitive as it goes on. However, once that event happens, the last 45 minutes of Bugonia just completely goes off the rails into a completely different movie, and that stuff is great, bordering on amazing. I really think this movie works with its central concept because regardless of Emma Stone's character as an alien, the movie still works. The message of this film is so clear that even if Emma Stone isn't a literal alien, her actions are so immoral and inhumane that she metaphorically becomes one. I think the setup of that idea in your mind really adds to those last 45 minutes, where the movie really starts toying with you, consistently throwing you off whether Emma Stone is an alien or not. I feel like the main standout of Bugonia besides the general last 45 minutes is Yorgos himself. Most of this movie works and feels consistent because of his great directing. I really gotta see more of his films, because while I don't really love Poor Things, his filmography is super unique. Bugonia is great. It does get a little old as it goes on, but those last 45 minutes makes it all worth it.
What? Larry, no. Is this like a...
This is deepfake AI.
Alright, let's...
It is deepfake. I could tell Yummy was not real. Larry...
Bought that shit!
This is deepfake AI.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning has unfortunately really grown off me since I first saw it, but because of that, this segment will be quite different from my original review. I think the main reason why I didn't click with this movie nearly as hard on a rewatch was due to me watching all the other Mission Impossible films before this. Before watching Final Reckoning, I had only seen Dead Reckoning, so I assumed that elements from the previous Mission Impossible movies really came together here, but they don't really. I had my headcanons for these characters, but when rewatching this, I realized that almost everyone here was only in the previous film, and I don't know, that really rubs me the wrong way. Previous lines in Final Reckoning that I loved also fall completely flat for me now. There's a great line where Kittredge explains how Ethan can never sacrifice his team no matter what, but after watching the Mission Impossible franchise, he really doesn't. Like, I get this idea is there, but it's not really a focus of these movies. I don't know, I feel like this movie really fails at paying the other Mission Impossible films off in any real satisfying way. Despite my thoughts on the overall story of this movie lowering, I still think that Final Reckoning has some incredibly passionate, well thought out filmmaking. Spaces and environments are so well captured in Final Reckoning, from that opening basement to that fantastic shot of Ethan hitting the surface of the ice. It's not always consistent, I still don't really like the submarine scene, but there are so many great moments of cinematography to make up for that. Besides cinematography, my thoughts on the editing in Final Reckoning have not changed at all. Transition between fights are seamless, the stunts are held on for just the right amount of time, every tense moment in Dead Reckoning excels at being tense, and that's mostly because of this film's editing. Everything I've talked about in this movie really comes together in the last 45 minutes of Final Reckoning. The plane stunt is still easily the best moment in this entire franchise. I think this scene hit me so hard when I first saw Final Reckoning because of the film film's marketing. Like take Dead Reckoning for example. The mountain stunt was the main focus of the entire marketing behind that movie. In Final Reckoning, the plane barely got any focus in trailers, which is why it caught me so off guard when the stunt ended up being so impressive. Anyways, I've talked about this stunt before, so I won't go into detail, but the main reason why it works so well is because Tom Cruise has to almost fall off the plane multiple times in order to make this scene work. Besides the stunt, everything about this finale is great. Besides Paris, everyone plays their roles perfectly, and that ending blink of an eye entity wipe feels so satisfying. Oh, who am I kidding? This film is still a big mess, and Dead Reckoning is overall a bit better, but Final Reckoning is still a great movie. Paul Thomas Anderson is a director I'm mostly unfamiliar with. This is actually the first film I've ever seen from him besides Punch Drunk Love, which I actually watched after One Battle After Another. And yeah, I really gotta tap into his movies because this guy is great. One Battle After Another follows Bob Ferguson, a past extremist revolutionary going on a wild chase between a colonel chasing him down and his previous friends. One Battle After Another is a really interesting film. It feels very unique in almost every element packed into it. Speaking of packed, this movie is filled with so many themes and plot, so to really dive into this movie, I feel like I have to talk about what it does with its opening prologue. As I said, this prologue is extremely unique. Instead of being a quick flashback at the start of the film, a good chunk of One Battle After Another is placed within this prologue as we see the peaks of these revolutionaries' lives before it all goes downhill. I think this is a good idea on paper, and to be fair, it is very unique. However, I still don't really care for this prologue. I just don't really like any of the characters here. Bob only starts getting good after this prologue when he's a bumbling alcoholic, but here he's just kind of a normal guy, which isn't really interesting. After moving into the modern day, elements from this prologue coming back into the film also never really worked for me. I don't care for any of these characters from the past reappearing in this film, whether that be all the revolutionaries that reappear or Perfidia Beverly Hills. Sorry, I know people love her, but I just don't really like this character. I just personally find her underdeveloped, and while not being that big of a deal, the stereotyping with her character does leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. The only characters that really work in One Battle After Another are Bob, Sergio, Lockjaw, and Willa, who are only in or only really shine after the prologue. Despite One Battle After Another only having 4 good characters, these 4 characters are definitely what brings One Battle After Another to life. My least favorite out of these 4 is definitely Willa. She is still overall quite good, and Chase Infinity does a great job for her first role, but I do feel like the writing for her character could have been tweaked. I really don't like the ending where she tries to shoot Bob. I just don't believe she would be so out of it to the point that she wouldn't recognize her own dad. It just doesn't sit right with me. Also, her lying about having a phone is really strange. She goes along with everything else to protect herself, but lies about her phone, which is the main reason everything goes wrong. Just really strange choices. This doesn't apply to Willa as a character, but where she ends up and what she does throughout a good chunk of this film, to me, is just as uninteresting as the prologue. Before Lockjaw shows up, it's just kinda boring. Despite this, she's still generally a really cool character with a crazy good outfit and a strong straight man for Bob. Anyways, moving past Willa, Sergio is also really fun. I don't love him nearly as much as other people do, but he's a fun sidekick who does his own thing in the background throughout the movie. Now, the 2 main big characters in this film that really bring One Battle After Another to life are Bob Ferguson and Colonel Lockjaw. Bob Ferguson, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, is such a great lead. I love the idea of following an ex-revolutionary who's completely drugged out and can't figure out what's going on the entire film. I love how he practically does nothing throughout this entire movie and just kind of stumbles around. Leo does a really good job for the most part, but his best acting is easily those phone call scenes. Have I mentioned this film is funny? It's really funny. I think that phone call scene where he's crying is genuinely the funniest scene of the year, and it's all due to Leo's great performance. Now, the real star of One Battle After Another is Colonel Lockjaw. Oh my god, this guy is good. Sean Penn gives one of the best performances of the year, playing this absolutely terrifying, hilarious white supremacist. I think the best way to describe how good this guy is the scene where he confronts Willa. When Willa asks why his shirt is so tight, he gets so defensive and angry, telling her that he's not gay. And in appropriate terms, this scene is funny as shit. It is hilarious to think people are actually like this. But as much as the scene is funny, Lockjaw follows this up by saying that he buried Willa's mother after murdering her, instantly changing the tone. I feel like this shouldn't work. You can't have such a dumb scene followed up by such serious writing. But I think it works so well because that's just who Lockjaw is. Him threatening to kill a teenager and getting called gay are both just as severe to him. And that's why he works so well. Anyways, I've rambled a lot about these characters, but Paul Thomas Anderson's style also works so well here. The chase scene in the middle of this movie is easily one of the best edited and shot scenes this entire year. I love the tracking shots and every actor flows so nicely together. It's perfectly controlled chaos with fantastic cinematography. And that score, man, it's definitely the best part of this entire movie for me. It's intense while also sounding so weird and simple all at the same time. Punch Drunk Love also had an incredible score, and this movie is just all of Punch Drunk Love's most intense songs playing constantly. I am still thinking about that car chase where the song kicks in halfway through. Man, it is good. I don't love One Battle After Another nearly as much as everyone else. I think at least an hour of it is just fine for me. But the highs of this movie are crazy high, and I think the filmmaking here should be studied for ages. I would not mind this winning Best Picture. And I have a feature here from the most progressive guy I know, Minakari.
Yo! What's good? It's your favorite Broke Boy in Film here. That's right, it's the first time for me. I'm finally invading someone else's channel. So thank you, Khan, for having me on for this video. Anyways, Paul Thomas Anderson. It's safe to say PTA is one of the most consistent directors of the past 30 years. I mean, it's just hit after hit after hit, like Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, The Master, not that one, Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, and now we have his newest film, One Battle After Another, which might be one of his best. I was very fortunate that Warner Bros. Were doing test screenings of the movie back in March here at my city, and I was able to watch it 6 months early. And seeing the film without knowing anything, I was very intrigued by how this film was going to be, because up to that point I'd only seen There Will Be Blood and Punch Drunk Love, and I love those movies, so I was expecting something very good. And what I watched that day left my jaw on the floor. What a insane film to make. It's PTA's first film in the modern day since like Punch Drunk Love, and even with all that time it's been since he's done a current day film, he still nails our current time and the feeling that we're all having, you know, the general unrestness of the world today. I thought that was pretty on point with what he did there. The acting is superb from everybody, you know, DiCaprio, Chase Infinity, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, you know, all of them were phenomenal in that movie. You know, all of them did their parts perfectly. They blend to the character so well that you forget that these are like the actors. Especially Sean Penn. He is simultaneously terrifying and pathetic in that movie. I don't know how he did it. Of course, we have fantastic cinematography courtesy of Michael Bauman, and it was just phenomenal to see. It was just a very beautiful and striking film, you know, filmed with VistaVision, and the way they toy with the camera, the cinematography, just, you know, there's a lot of shots in this movie that will leave your jaw dropping, especially, you know, the car chase at the end, just the way the road moves and then the way it looks. It's very trippy to see, and it was just like, whoa. Johnny Greenwood always cooks with PTA, and this is no different. You know, it's kind of a jazzy score with like these pianos, but there's a lot of moments I feel like I'm bumbling, you know, kind of messing the notes up, and it feels very anxious, and you know, there's a lot of repeating notes too that adds to the anxiousness of the film, and it just leaves you with your heart racing on top of everything else that's happening in the movie. So yeah, that score was amazing. I remember when I first watched this movie, I thought this is either going to be very highly praised or this is going to be very highly divisive, and even with some backlash recently from Twitter, obviously, but the movie has gotten substantial praise. I mean, high Rotten Tomatoes, high Letterboxd score, and it's just very cool to see everyone seemingly uniting that this is one of the best movies of the year, because it is, I do think, and this is definitely my personal favorite film of the year. I truly think it's a fantastic film from start to finish. You know, it's chaotic, it's fun, it's also a very heartfelt, very touching film about fatherhood, and I just thought it was a very beautiful film to watch, and I can't wait to see PTA get all the awards he deserves, because it is truly spectacular what he achieved here. And one more thing before Con comes back, I just wanted to of course plug my channel, Broke Boy in Film. So I'm currently working on an album ranking of 2025, and I potentially will do a film ranking of 2025, which include all the films I watched that year. And of course, you know, I'll go more in depth on this film because it is my favorite of 2025. Spoiler alert. But you know, I hope y'all subscribe to the channel if y'all like what I did here. Anyways, thank you, Khan, for having me in this video. It's your favorite Broke Boy in Film. Transition.
This is culturally inappropriate.
Boom, an animated film. I didn't forget. I still like animation, even if nothing mainstream was very good this year. Lesbian Space Princess is about Sarah, the titular lesbian space princess who has to save her ex from the evil straight white Malians. I think the thing to talk about the most with Lesbian Space Princess is how independent it is, whether that be a good or bad thing. For example, everything in this movie just has a blue outline, which is such a simple choice but shows a more artistic style compared to most animated movies. I also love how pretty much everyone in this movie has an accent. It adds so much to the charm here, even if sometimes that charm can become an actual issue. The voice acting here is very rough a lot of the time. So many lines feel off and poorly delivered. However, this does not apply to the straight white Malians, who are the funniest characters in this movie. Their voice acting here is very Smiling Friends-esque, with all the rambling and improv comedy they're always doing. They're always doing these random bits that pretty much always get me. The Reddit karma line is one of the best jokes this entire year. I also really like the problematic ship. It's a dumb idea, but I genuinely like this guy. I think his arc is really nice. I think this says something about me, that my two favorite characters are the only male characters in the whole movie, but I don't know, they're funny. Okay, but for real, despite these guys being funny, Willow is definitely the actual best character in Lesbian Space Princess. They are so quirked up to an absurd degree, but I genuinely find them endearing, and Gemma Chua Tran is fantastic in this role. A lot of actors here sound pretty rough, but Willow is consistently landing every line, and they're all bangers. The pineapple bit is very, very good. I feel like they should be annoying, but it just feels so sincere to me. Anyways, to bring this all back, Lesbian Space Princess is a messy movie, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing. It feels confused in what it's trying to do. Like sometimes it has that Smiling Friends humor that I love, like having an extremely fast breakneck pace with its comedy, but then occasionally a joke will drag out and become kinda slow. I find this film's opening to be kinda rough with its humor. It feels really awkward and forced, but then again, after Sarah gets on the ship, the movie just kinda hits you over and over again with so many creative set pieces and jokes. It's bizarre, and despite how bad this sounds, I kinda love it. It's the main reason why Lesbian Space Princess has stuck in my head so much and has gone from a good movie to a borderline fantastic one. Even if I don't find a joke funny, it still has so much charm to it, and I just can't help but find it, I don't know, cute? It really doesn't matter if the joke doesn't land or not, because this movie's intense charm overrides it. I just love how messy this movie is, whether that be a good thing or a bad thing. That messiness even comes back into the movie itself. I love that Willow never comes back after they and Sarah break up. I think that's so realistic and genuinely completely caught me off guard after the rest of the movie was kinda predictable. Pretty much every seemingly rushed, messy choice here works for me because it just feels so independent, in a way so many movies lack nowadays. We are now approaching the 9 out of 10 movies, the best of the best, and it's a top 5, which is really nice. So here's the top 5 movies of 2025. Wake Up Dead Man was my most anticipated film of 2025, and unlike so many films this year, it absolutely delivered on the hype. Wake Up Dead Man is the third installment in the Knives Out franchise, following a pastor accused of murder in an extremely religious town. The first Knives Out is in my top 10 favorite films of all time, so to see Ryan still pumping out these bangers is such a relief. The moment it starts, you can see Rian Johnson's signature style coming into life. Ryan is able to throw you off the truth several times, only for the ending to still catch you off guard and still make perfect sense. Wake Up Dead Man also takes a uniquely darker approach in its visual storytelling. Glass Onion is a very saturated movie, while the original Knives Out takes a clear middle ground. Wake Up Dead Man goes completely off the rails and goes into a very gothic, edgy look, which is an incredible style to take this franchise in. The church in this film doesn't have a cross, which is used expertly to the film's benefit. When Wick enters the church for the first time, he fills in the cross's shadow, perfectly showing his absolute control. Once Judd builds an actual cross at the end of the movie, there's no shadow left, showing a bigger sense of community. It's brilliant. Generally, Wake Up Dead Man carries incredible cinematography with strong tracking shots and great color grading. In general, I think this entire movie just has a big step up in visual quality. To take it back, let's talk about Glass Onion. I really like Glass Onion. I think it's a great film. However, it's still definitely weaker than the original Knives Out and was a bit of a letdown for me when I first saw it. To me, Glass Onion's message is just a more simple version of the original Knives Out. Instead of detailing immigration and how immigrants can succeed in removing the rich, Glass Onion's whole premise is that rich people are just really dumb. At the time of Glass Onion, I assumed the Knives Out franchise would continue with the Eat the Rich theme, but Wake Up Dead Man surprised me by being about a completely different topic. Wake Up Dead Man's message is great, being about the corruption of the church and how religion should be properly used. Josh Brolin gives a great performance as Reverend Wicks, this corrupt priest who uses the church for his own benefit. On the other side of the spectrum, we have Reverend Judd, the on-the-surface more flawed character who tries to use the church properly to help others. Wake Up Dead Man also has the general theme of anger and how giving into sin can destroy destroy you. Judd succumbs to his rage several times in this movie, and due to a corrupted town, he continues to sink deeper into guilt. These themes are really interesting and distances this movie from the other Knives Out films. I really love Blanc. I think he's one of my favorite characters of all time, and he's equally amazing in this, but I think from now on, the Knives Out films need central protagonists. Marta is the real heart of Knives Out 1, and Reverend Judd is also a great lead that really makes Wake Up Dead Man click. The only real issue I have with Wake Up Dead Man is how it uses its cast. I do enjoy our supporting characters here, but they aren't as developed as, let's say, the original cast in Knives Out, which we spend so much time with. Anyways, Wake Up Dead Man is fantastic. I was initially scared with Rian Johnson dedicating himself solely to Knives Out films, but if he can keep tackling new themes for each movie, then I really don't mind. Give him hell, Ryan. I was preparing for this video to end up being pretty negative, but out of nowhere, so many bangers just randomly popped up at the top of this list at the end of the year. I guess that's how it normally goes with movies each year, but my god. It's a good thing I didn't aim for this video to come out on January 1st. Anyway, speaking of movies that came out right before the year ended, Marty Supreme. Marty Supreme is about this little narcissistic rat named Marty and his big chase to become the greatest ping pong player in the world. I don't really want to get into what this film is specifically about in case you haven't seen it yet, but Marty Supreme goes far beyond ping pong after its first 30 minutes and basically becomes a distorted, completely insane fever dream of a movie. Tons of conflicting plots, insane violence. This movie just goes deeper as Marty himself goes deeper and deeper in order to achieve his goals. In a way, this film really reminds me of Whiplash, with the concept of seeing how far someone is willing to push themselves to become great, or in this case, achieve a goal. The core difference being that Marty Supreme is far less grounded and more off the walls. What I really appreciate about the pace for Marty Supreme is that the first 30 minutes of this movie is solely dedicated to ping pong before we dive into complete insanity for an hour and 30 minutes. It's so out of left field and throws you off completely. And despite the insane stuff that happened previously in the film, the ping pong here is somehow the most tense part of the I cannot relate to Marty at all. He's a little rat that causes every conflict in this movie, and he clearly doesn't care for anyone around him. I just can't sympathize with him during that ending. I can't help but feel he'll ruin everything for himself again since the movie drives that point home so hard. Regardless if you see this ending as a negative or positive note to end the film on, I don't think either concept was developed well enough, and it leads me to feel hollow during this ending. But that's really the only issue I have with Marty Supreme, because besides the sour note it ends on, this movie is electric, incredibly tense, has great direction, and has an Oscar-worthy, near-perfect performance. I should probably rewatch Uncut Gems. Yep, Chainsaw Man Reze arc is amazing, just like everyone says. Spoilers, by the way. Before getting into the film itself, I have to of course talk about the strong positives carried over from the manga here. Reze as a character is still definitely one of Chainsaw Man's best. Despite not sticking around for very long, she's become a fan favorite, and I think that says a lot about how memorable she is. I really like how Reze's absurd, quirked up persona ends up just being how she is. Obviously, there's the I'm anemic and practically naked scene, but there's also her first kill where she says to no one but herself, where'd they run off to? God, she's so good. She is simultaneously terrifying and way too quirky for her own good. Fujimoto's writing for both Reze and Denji's relationship is also incredibly strong and one of the best aspects of the movie. Denji is significantly more likable here for the first time in the series. It's the first time I can fully root for him, and that's why it's so tragic seeing how their relationship ends up by the end of the movie. Those are most of my thoughts on the original manga and its writing, but the movie itself does a shocking amount of things to bring the manga to its fullest potential. There are so many changing styles here, from visuals to music. The door scene is a good example of adapting the manga by using a different style and animation to replicate the same feeling the manga gives off. The music is also constantly changing in genre from D&B to piano ballads. It's all over the place and I love it. The adaptation that sticks out to me the most is the pool scene. When reading the manga for the first time, I thought this scene was kinda weird and was just unnecessary fan service, but hearing the incredible music here made me realize what Fujimoto's original vision was when paneling the scene, and I think that honestly is one of the best adaptations I've seen before. The movie took something from the manga that originally felt off and used the medium of film to better showcase the author's original vision. When I read the manga now, I'll see it through Fujimoto's vision, and I think that's because of this movie. Unfortunately, despite how strong of an adaptation this is, it's still held back by the issues I had with the original manga. I really don't like how predictable this movie can feel sometimes. It still rubs me the wrong way since so many other details details here are so subtle. I also don't like how obviously evil Reze is made to be, even if it does lead to some cool scenes. The breakneck pace of the manga is still felt here even though it's given the entire runtime of a movie. I don't feel a ton of attachment to everything, and I think it's because we didn't have enough time to flesh out everyone. And unfortunately, even with incredible animation, I still don't like the Typhoon Devil. I think they're fine, but the setup for them feels unnecessary, especially when the Typhoon Devil itself never feels intimidating to me, even on this rewatch. Anyways, those are most of my specific thoughts, but I also carry the same strong feelings that pretty much everyone else has said about this movie. The action and animation here is absolutely stellar. The most impressive thing about this is the fact that it just keeps going for so long. The shot recreating the book 1 volume of Chainsaw Man is the coolest moment of fan service this whole year. Come on, look at it. So yeah, I really like this movie. Season 2 of Chainsaw Man with animation this good would be the best thing ever, since for me, Reze arc is only the middle point in quality in the manga. It gets so much better from here, trust me. Oh yeah, last thing I want to add, Aki and Angel are definitely gay. I didn't really think they were when reading the manga, but the additional details added here, like cutting between Reze and Denji flirting back to them, or the added detail of Angel putting his wings around Aki, they're gay, there's no way. Speaking of gay, here's a feature from my boyfriend, Didum. Take it away.
Hey everyone, it's me, Big Dog Didum. I'm like Khan's boyfriend. I make all his thumbnails. So yeah, I'm a pretty big deal. Anyways, the Didum Award for Movie of the Year 2025 goes to Chainsaw Man Reza Arc. Ooh, that's a good movie. I'm like the #1 Chainsaw Man fan like on earth. I'm a really big fan. I watched the original Chainsaw Man anime a few years back, and that was pretty good, but I didn't really see all the hype. And then about a year ago now, I think, I read the manga, and like that was absolutely insane. I got obsessed. I genuinely think Fujimoto is like the greatest writer living right now. It's insane. And then after that, I rewatched the original anime again, thinking maybe I'd like it more, but I don't think I really did. Season 1 just doesn't capture the same feeling the manga conveys. It's too ordinary. It's really good, but it's also so polished to the point that a lot of the charm just slips right off. The Reza Arc movie absolutely fixes all of this. It's a perfect adaptation. It perfectly conveys Fujimoto's vision, while using the medium to elevate it even further. The colors are insane, they actually light my brain on fire. The animation might be the best in any film I've seen in my entire life. Even the fight scenes are extended, and they're non-stop to be like even more insane than the manga. It's insane. There's so much love and care and thought put into every single second of this film. It's a miracle. Fujimoto's pen game is completely unmatched, as I said before, and this is where he really starts to hit his stride. If season 2 of the anime keeps this up, I, without a doubt, 100% believe that Chainsaw Man will dominate the entire world. Okay, that's my thoughts on the Chainsaw Man Reza arc. Here are my top 5 hottest babes in Chainsaw Man. Number 5, I'm gonna say Power. 4 is Denji. I like his hair a lot. I like his shark teeth. Number 3, Reze, self-explanatory. Angel Devil, also self-explanatory. Number 1, I'm not gonna lie, it's like definitely Makima. She does some like pretty bad stuff, but like I think like if you look past that, like I think she is pretty cool, the hottest babe in Chainsaw Man. Okay, thank you.
Show me the place where he inserted the blade.
Okay, so at the time of watching and writing for this film, it's December 23rd, and I'm nearing the end of writing this video. Judging by the placement of this, I'm sure you can tell this is one of the best films I've seen all year. And while it is great to see an incredible film so late into the year, it is also absolutely terrifying because it means potentially rewriting this entire script right when I'm about to write the final #1 spot on this video. It's so close to beating that #1 spot, but I do think the #1 spot is better. That might just be me stopping myself from rewriting this video, but who knows. Time will tell, I guess. Anyways, I guess we'll see when this video is done, but hopefully there aren't any other movies coming out towards the end of the year that might make it to the top spot on this list. Hopefully. Okay, back to the movie. Little Amelie, or the character of Rain as I'm gonna call it from now, follows this baby French girl living in 60s Japan with her family as she learns about death, life, and her place in the universe. The character of Rain is very simple. The movie sticks with a very innocent and happy tone. The character of Rain could be described as a slice of life film with very low stakes. Despite that, the character of Rain can feel incredibly intense and spellbinding because of how these simple moments are executed. An impactful action in character of Rain happens towards the end when our main character falls into a pond. While normally an impactful moment in something, say, live action, the absolutely breathtaking visuals here of her not just falling into the pond, but falling into the mouth of a giant koi inside the pond, takes this sad moment and turns it into an absolutely brutal, crucial point in the film, which additionally highlights how impactful this feels towards a 3-year-old girl. Now, I love the character of Rain for these two near perfect elements, but I do think the story itself could use some work. Some characters like this mean old Japanese lady change way too fast, and many characters in this film feel so insignificant to the overall plot. This entire movie is just really simple, and I think that takes away a lot for me. This is what I would say normally, but I still cried my eyes out when Amelie gave an empty bottle to her housekeeper and new friend, Nisho-san. Why is that? Why does it have such a strong impact on me? The feelings I felt during this film confused me so much after leaving the theater. On the surface, these scenes are incredibly simple, but I still cried my eyes out to them. I could say it's the near perfect score and visuals, and I think that's part of it, but something about these moments still resonate with me so strongly. This year has been a year where I've generally gotten over my issues with overthinking, and I think moments like this, where a character with no issues in her life cluelessly unlocks someone's deepest memories, hits me so emotionally. It's so simple, but I think for me, I really needed something as simple as this. I think it's all I needed in a film. Please watch The Character of Rain. Please support independent animation. Thank you. Hey guys, if you couldn't tell by looking at me, I'm around 50% white. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about Sinners, my favorite movie of 2025.
I'm a cowgirl. Yeah.
Can you not? I'm trying to. Really? Really? We're doing this again? It was a year ago. It was more than a year ago. I've grown up. Oh yeah, real. I did not cry that many times. I was not sobbing. It was like a single tear. It was not that much.
You wanna fight?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do this now. Okay. I initially gave Sinners a high 8 in my original review, and while several points in that review still stand here, I think pretty much every element of Sinners that I liked on my first watch has doubled now. Sinners' best aspect is its strong focus on detail. I feel like pretty much every element of filmmaking here has some sort of extreme effort put into it. The lighting used throughout Sinners is so well thought out. The environment of this film before the vampires show up is purposely clear and blue. This choice already looks great throughout Sinners as an environment, but it's given a greater meaning once the sun sets, showing the two halves of this film, the normal human half and the darker half with the vampires. The vampires only first show up on screen in this movie when the sun starts setting, which is such smart attention to detail. Ryan Coogler tracks what time of day it is so well throughout all of Sinners. Even when it's night, the humans are lit in these bright yellow rooms, while the vampires are always in total darkness. The cinematography in Sinners is also filled with so much passion. The tracking shots here are some of my favorite scenes of the year, and so many random scenes here look so beautiful due to how much attention to detail was put into them. For example, the car scenes look fantastic. It's perfectly framed, each angle captures everyone. I don't know, the passion put into these insignificant scenes really impressed me. Honestly, before the vampires even show up, Sinners is pretty much perfect with its pacing. I said this in my original review, but there was a point where I thought Shaq's subplot was going for a little too long right before we cut back to smoke. It's really impressive how engaging Sinners is without having to use vampires. The music in Sinners is another amazing element. Like the Chainsaw Man movie, there are so many mixes of genres here. I love the blues at the start, but I also love the points in Sinners where more modern songs jump in. The first time the vampires show up, they're scored by an intense drum which is so out of left field and shows the total change in tone once the vampires show up in the movie. Besides pretty much every aspect of filmmaking here, there's still more little moments of detail here. I still picked up new details on this rewatch. I just realized the trunk Smoke and Stack talk about is the explanation for how Smoke got so many guns at the end of the movie. I don't know if that's obvious to some people, but I just got that on my third rewatch. I think all of this incredible attention to detail in Sinners fully comes together in what is my favorite scene of the entire year, which is obviously the juke joint scene. Like, what more can be said here that hasn't already been said? I think this scene is so shocking to me because it blends modern pop culture into a scene that's supposed to take place in the 1930s. It's like a full fourth wall break that is only communicated to us through the scene's filmmaking. Every aspect of what makes Sinners great excels here. The tracking shots look incredible, the music is fantastic, the little attentions to detail here, like having the Asian couple have Asian dancers. So much about this scene is perfect, and besides being the coolest thing ever, it also explains why the vampires come in the first place. Speaking of, I really enjoy Sinners' metaphor and what it's trying to say about the music industry. Obviously, it's showing a lot and isn't just giving us one meaning, but you have to think when the white man hears the black people's music and tries to take it for himself, while claiming to reunite them together as one, killing them to become soulless husks in his family. Besides Remek's racist allegories, we literally have the KKK here, so yeah, a lot of Sinners focuses hard on its message, and I think it's really interesting. I obviously have no place to talk about or relate to it, but I think it's great, and finally shows Ryan Coogler can make his own unique story, with a unique topic that he wants to talk about. If I were to throw out all my issues with the movie, I'd say the editing here is fantastic, but the use of reusing old footage to showcase a point is very annoying. The way the KKK plot ends is kinda unnecessary and just feels like a way to wrap up the plot with no real thought. And lastly, Sinners is better before the vampires show up. Once they do appear, the movie gets a little more predictable and generic. However, it's still pretty great and has some of my favorite scenes in the movie, like the death of the vampires or Sammy's ending. To be honest, Sinners is weaker than my top 3 movies last year, and if it came out in 2024, it would place number 4 in my video. But hey, I still think Sinners is fantastic, and it's gotta be my favorite movie of 2025. And those are my favorite films of 2025. Hi, I'm here again, I'm doing the outro, I'm reading my script. Hey, while I'm at it, let's rank the years for this decade so far. Okay, so number 6 is gonna be 2020, obviously, and then number 5 is gonna be 2021. Decent, but again, like nothing came out. 4 is 2024, a good year, but it's a bit lacking still. 3, 2025, a really good year, as you can tell by this whole video, but I don't think there are any like fantastic films or anything to really make the year stand out for me. Number 2, 2022, my favorite movie of the decade came out this year, so it's gonna be high up, but I actually don't think the year itself was super consistent. And then number 1 is 2023, because Across the Spider-Verse is like a pretty close number 2, and also there were like 9 out of 10 films that year. It was kind of crazy. It was super consistent. Okay, that was fun. Sorry for taking so long to release this video. I started working on this in November since I thought it was going to be a pretty weak year for film, but then all my favorite films this year just randomly dropped, plus the hour-long Koreko video that I finished in December, so this video was bound to get delayed. If you're still here, thanks for watching. This has been an interesting year for the channel. I got monetized, so yay for that, thanks Dotsroom. But I think getting paid for these videos will keep me going for a lot longer than I initially thought. But who knows, we'll see. I generally plan on stopping all my shorter, lazier content this year. I just want to make more videos that I'm proud of. So no more reviews, unless I really want to do it, and no more seasonal videos, unfortunately. Thanks to everyone who featured, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry for being a little annoying about it. And thanks to everyone who is watching now. If you couldn't tell, I have the face cam on, so I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff with this. I guess this is a face reveal, because I really wanted to do a face reveal for a Sinners bit, but yeah, I'm here now. This is what I look like. This is me. Future videos, I want to make a more low-key album review if you didn't see the intro. I also am going to do an Oscars video soon whenever the nominations come out. And I do plan on actually doing something for April Fool's Day this year. That's basically everything I need. Happy New Year's, guys. I know I'm late. I'm recording this on New Year's, but I'm probably late to this. So, thanks for watching. I appreciate all of you for sticking around. This is an epic outro.